Hi folks, I think this is the biggest book haul that I've done in quite a long time, and that's for several reasons. One of which I was feeling pretty low, and I know that capitalism is not the answer, but I do work in the book industry. Books are pretty much my everything, and they do bring me happiness. So that's the narrative that's going on in my head. There are some proof copies here too, and I also had an amazing reading month last month in June. I suddenly forgot what last month was, in June, and I think I'd been feeling quite slumpy with reading, and it's one of those times when I didn't really realise it until I was actually off work for a week, and I was able to read a lot in that time and read some amazing books. So I know that my June wrap up hasn't gone up yet, that's going to go up next week, but I have so many amazing books to talk to you about, many of which are going to be on my favourite books of the year list so far, which I'll also film soon. So I think because I was getting through so many books very rapidly, I bought a few more than normal. That's fine. I have no regrets. But speaking of feeling sad, something that really cheered me up is this, which is my new book. I got a copy of it in the post. This is The Sister Who Ate Her Brothers and Other Gruesome Tales. This is written by me and illustrated by Adam D'Souza. It has wonderful foiling on it. It's coming out on the 7th of October. This is for anyone aged 8, 9 plus, and for adults too. It's a collection of gruesome fairy tales that I have retold, collected from around the world, and then Adam has illustrated them. It has this book plate in it. It has a ribbon bookmark. We love a ribbon bookmark. Let me show you one of the illustrations that Adam has done. So I filmed a video all about this on Monday, and I also read one of the stories to you in that video. So if you would like to go and take a look at that, you can. Look at that. I love his use of colour. So that cheered me up a lot. The other things that I bought. So for a video that I've got coming up soon where I'm reading another 5 literary journals, I've already done one video where I read 5 other literary journals, and I'll link that down below. This is the second part of that where I read 5 more. I bought Tamarind, which is a literary journal focused on science. So it's non-fiction and fiction, centered on science, which I think sounds really interesting. I also have a copy of this little poetry pamphlet here, which is called Modern Medicine by Lucy Hurst, which is a collection of poetry about chronic illness. This is a novel in verse, which has been sent to me by the publisher, and it's by Aziza Barnes, and it's called The Blind Pig. It says, The Blind Pig is an Afro-surrealist excavation of a genderqueer black millennials' formal introduction to their ancestral point of Mecca and no return, the American South. In essayistic prose, this book weaves and unbraids the synapses of a black American falling in and out of time, which sounds rather fascinating. And I also bought this poetry pamphlet by Polly Atkin because I was reading their work in other places and thought it sounded great. This is called With Invisible Rain, and this explores location and dislocation in and out of the body, which I love the sound of. So those are all the really short things that I have bought or been sent for review. Last month I read, what's it called? I'll Have What She's Having, which is a collection of poems, non-fiction pieces, and short stories about food. So I bought the other book that Dear Damsels have published, which is called Let Me Know When You're Home. And this is a collection of stories about female friendship, and I am really excited to read this one because I love how they put the other book together. But also, I'm often asked what books I would recommend about female friendship, and even though I do have many that I can recommend, I do really want more of those. So that is going on the TBR. I bought the 3rd and 4th books in the Roxanne Weary series, which is written by Kristen Lepionka. I am loving them so much. I'm going to talk about them more in my June wrap up and also in a reading vlog that's coming up, because last month I read the first 2, but let's just say I'm really enjoying them. So I wanted all of the ones that have been published. Frustratingly, this one doesn't have a matte finish and all the others do, and this one's really shiny, and it's bugging me slightly, but I've made my peace with it. I also bought a new to me Nicci French. I have nearly read all of their books and I'm going to be so sad when I reach the end, but you know, I have to read them because they're so good. This one is called Until It's Over, and it's about a bicycle courier called Astrid, and the police are confused because she keeps being called to clients to collect parcels, and when she gets there, they've been killed. And she's like, well, this is just really bad luck. I don't know what's going on. But the police think she must be involved in some way, and it turns into a little bit of a nightmare for her. I bought 2 short story collections. This first one is called Burning Girls and Other Stories by Veronica Schanoes, and has been compared to Kelly Link and Karen Russell. So I'm thinking rich text, magical realism, girlhood, coming of age type stories. It says in here that in one of the stories, Emma takes tea with the Baba Yaga. In another, a young woman lives in 17th century Germany and is trying to avenge the brutal murder of her father. And in the title story, the author invests the immigrant narrative with a fearsome fairy tale quality that tells a story about America that we may not want to hear, but need to. The other one that I bought is this one here, which is called The Flicker Against the Light and Writing the Contemporary Uncanny by Jane Alexander. So this is a short story collection which also has an essay at the back, which is the writing the contemporary uncanny bit. But for the short stories, it says a woman walks through a virtual reconstruction of the destroyed streets where she and her lover used to live. A young man trades away his youth and something of himself in the plasma extracted from his blood. A clone addresses her dead, doubled self as she tries to understand her personal history. That all sounds very good, and it has been compared to Black Mirror. I think this was recommended to me. Where was it recommended? Maybe on Twitter. I was talking about Alexander Weinstein. I think that was it. And I was saying how much I was enjoying it. And someone said if I liked Alexander Weinstein, then I would really like this book. I have been sent a copy of this collection of poetry, which is published by 3 of Cups Press. I really like the anthologies that they produce, and I was part of one of them last year, which was called Outsiders, which was a short story collection. This is their first poetry anthology, and it's called Tell Me Who We Were Before Life Made Us. And it's all about creating mythologies about ourselves and the places that we come from, which I think, sounds right up my street. Then I thought, I haven't read any Banana Yoshimoto in forever, and I can't remember why I was thinking about her. I think I was thinking about NP because I sometimes think about that book, even though I read it years ago, and I just love it. So I decided that I would purchase 2 Banana Yoshimoto books that I haven't read before. This one is called Moshi, and it sounds rather traumatic. This is about a young woman whose father has died in a suicide pact that he made with an unknown woman who they know nothing about, and they're trying to find out what has happened. And in the meantime, this young woman is having dreams, or rather nightmares, about her father, where he's trying to find his phone to call her before he dies and can't find it. And she's wondering if he is trying to communicate to her after his death. And the other one that I bought, I should say who this is translated by, because this is translated from the Japanese by Asa Yonida, and this is called Amrita, which is the other book that I bought, which is translated from the Japanese by Russell F. Wasden. And I may read Moshi during August, which is Women in Translation Month. So Amrita says that this is about a celebrated actress who has died in mysterious and shocking circumstances, leaving behind an unconventional extended family that includes an older sister, a woman in her 20s, through whose eyes the whole story unfolds, a young brother who possesses mystical powers, and a fiancé who is writing a novel with uncanny parallels to his own story. Banana Yoshimoto really likes writing about writing and writing about books that have magical powers that affect the people who are writing them. I'm all here for that meta stuff. That's great. The other day I was talking to Jean, and she said that she was reading this book and was really loving it and thought that I would like it. And I had seen it in Penguin's newsletter and had been intrigued. It is The Mad Women's Ball by Victoria Mass. This is set in the 1800s, in 1885, and it's set at an asylum in Paris. And this is full of hypnotized women run by this very controlling doctor who has deemed these women hysterical and has locked them up. But once a year, he has a ball where people can come and, I guess, gawp at these women. So it is a mix of Victorian hysterical women theory, water therapy, and all of that stuff, and also the freak show. So kind of bringing those 2 things together. And a masked ball. I mean, it sounds really intriguing, and it is very short, and Jean thought that I would like it because it is about othering gays and all of that stuff. So let me put that on the pile. I've just realised this pile is getting very high. Let me move some before it starts covering my face. I have been very kindly sent a review copy of Jenn Ashworth's new book, which is called Ghosted. This cover is so beautiful. This book sounds fascinating. It's about a woman called Laurie whose husband has gone missing. He has left his wallet and his phone, I think. Yeah, so for weeks. She doesn't report him missing, and she just goes about her day, going to work, going to look after her father, and she doesn't tell anyone what's happening. And I don't know why. I don't know the circumstances of his disappearance or what their relationship was like beforehand, but she doesn't tell anyone. Maybe she thinks he's going to come back. Maybe she's relieved that he's gone. I don't know. But after a few weeks, she thinks, I should probably tell someone that he's gone missing. So she goes to the police, but then the police say, why is it taking you this long to come forward? And they land on her like a ton of bricks, and she's under investigation. So this sounds fantastic. The next book is one that I've bought that I'm kind of not sure about, but I want to give it a go. So I read Sister by Rosamund Lupton when it came out, which must be at least 10 years ago now, 12 years, longer, and I loved it. I got swept up in it. I read it in one go. I remember finishing it at 2:30 in the morning and texting my friend Jo and saying, you have to read this thriller. It's just so, I can't even think of words now. I just was so invested in it when I read it, but it's also one of those books that I think was so of the time and place that I read it, and I'm not sure it would stand up to a rereading now. I then read her second book afterward, which came out a few years ago, and it just really was not for me at all. It had lots of supernatural elements that I wasn't supposed to find funny, but I kind of did find funny. I just could not believe in anything that was happening. But her new book, 3 Hours, recently came out, and Emma over at Drinking by My Shelf loves it so much, and I thought, well, maybe I should just give this one a go. So I'm gonna try, and I don't know if I'm gonna like it, but I'm going in with an open mind. So it says, in rural Somerset, in the middle of a blizzard, the unthinkable happens. A school is under siege. So this is about a school shooting, and it's about 3 hours during that school shooting, and I think it's going to be very tense. And yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to say about it. That is the premise of the book. So we'll see how I get on with this one. I then requested a review copy of this memoir, which is coming out in August, published by Picador. It's called Crying in H-Mart by Michelle Zauner. This is about her growing up in Oregon as the only Asian American in her school. It's about her relationship with her family and also with Korea. She did go live in Korea in her grandmother's tiny flat for a while with her mother, where they bonded and ate loads of amazing food. She's traveled around the US, and she talks about meeting her husband and performing in a band and lots of stuff. So much going on in this book, but I just thought it sounded really intriguing. I also bought a copy of this non-fiction book here because I read Detransition Baby by Tori Peters last month, and I thought this would be a great book to read. Not next, but soon. It's called The Natural Mother of the Child, a memoir of non-binary parenthood by Krys Malcolm Beck. So Krys fought to be recognised as the father of their child on their child's birth certificate, but because they birthed their child, the government said no. This is a collection of essays about gender and parenthood and what it's like raising a child as a genderqueer person, as a transmasculine person, and I just think it's going to be really, really interesting. So I look forward to reading that one at some point in the near future. I have this proof copy of Sarah Moss's new book, which I am super excited about. It's not coming out until November. So this is about a woman in a family. What is her name? Oh, molting, alopecia, my friends, hair everywhere, broke the Hoover the other week. I quite like this wig. What do we think? I like the wig. Anyway, sorry, the book. So this is about a woman called Kate who has just come back from somewhere in the present day, and she has to self-isolate because she's been traveling, and she becomes really claustrophobic in her house. So she decides to go out for a walk up a mountain, which is not allowed, but she's hoping that she won't get caught. But on the walk, she falls and hurts herself, and now she doesn't know what to do. I am sure that it's going to be exquisite because Sarah's books are always exquisite, and her female characters, well, all of her characters are amazing, but the voices of her female characters and the way that they talk about their lives and their families are always just chef's kiss, amazing. So excited to read that. I also bought a copy of this Japanese novel here, which I was going to say is giving me lullaby vibes by Leila Slimani, and I just realised that there is a quote from Leila Slimani on the front. But this is called The Woman in the Purple Skirt by Natsuko Imamura, and this is translated from the Japanese by Lucy North. It's about a woman who wears a purple skirt and goes and sits on the same park bench every day and ignores everyone, and the local children have turned this into a game where they're trying to get her attention, but more importantly, someone is watching her, paying attention to what time she arrives, what time she leaves, what buses she gets on. And it said, but this invisible observer is not a stalker, it's much more complicated than that. ... This next book is a novel, a proof of a novel, and it's giving me Alia Whiteley vibes. It's by Premi Mohammed and it's called The Annual Migration of Birds. It's set in a not too far away future where the world has been ravaged by climate disaster. It says that there are food shortages which have ended industry, leaving little behind. Then came CAD, a mysterious, mind-altering fungi that invades the body of the now scattered citizenry. Reed, a young woman who carries this parasite, has been given the chance to get away, to move to one of the last remnants of pre-disaster society, but she can't bring herself to abandon her mother and the community that she relies on. I mean, this sounds very, very intense. And then finally, the last book that I have bought is edited by Joy Harjo, and this is called Living Nations, Living Words, an anthology of First Peoples poetry, which, I mean, I can't say much about until I have read it. It's a collection of First Nations poets who have written work, and it has been collected in this book, and I'm really looking forward to reading this and discovering new voices, new poets who I might like to check out. So I did say it was quite a lot. I have purchased several books. There are lots of books for review here. I will list them in the description box down below in case that is helpful to you. If you missed my book announcement video on Monday, I would love for you to go and check that out. I will link that in the description box down below. And if you would like to pre-order my new book, that would mean the world and be so, so helpful to me. Bringing a book out at the moment is nerve-wracking stuff. This is my 10th book, but the world that we live in right now is difficult bringing out books. So all help is massively appreciated. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will speak to you all very, very soon. Sending lots of love. Bye.